I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher.
Look where we are. Here, all of us, in this moment. So let's do what we spent our entire lives learning to be great at.
And this is Crusher Convo. And welcome to Crusher Convo, where we're crushing the conversation one episode at a time. We are going into an alternate, crazy timeline, timey-wimey situation where the Defiant crew finds a colony that is actually their own family. And to help me break down the ethics of it all is my favorite Kara crew member. Love you, Chris, but so sorry. Abby from First Flight Podcast. Welcome back, Abby.
Thank you, Jesse. And you are a proud member of the Carrot crew as well. So, and if you guys don't get that, it's a First Flight, my podcast joke. Come and join us. It's a good time. And thank you for having me on again. I love talking to you. I've been looking forward to this.
No, I'm super excited. You were with me in season 2 when I brought back the podcast, so it's been a hot second. But your co-host Chris has not been back since season 1.
He's hard to get nailed down. His timeline is tough. He's a busy man.
He's a busy man. He also does Shelf Nerds, and if you guys don't follow him on all the socials, please do. He definitely. You think I break down Star Trek. He's breaking all corners and through different quadrants. Okay, so, but before we get started and talk about Deep Space Nine, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my sponsor, which is Cherry Tree. If you use my code CrusherConvo6, you get 6% off your order. And right now, they are now selling you little USB sticks. I have the Defiant, and they now just came out with Voyager. But if you also love Klingons, they have Klingon keyboards, t-shirts, computers, the whole 9 yards. Just go over to mycherrytree.com and then follow them on the socials at @cherrytree incorporated. So wanted to throw that in there, and this is a perfect little moment here. So here's my Defiant. Okay.
That's so
and
cool.
Just because, and because this is a Defiant episode, here's the USB. And I used it at the Comic-Con, and I'll be bringing it to Vegas. So.
Nice. See, that's where you're going to get Chris, because he'll be in Vegas too. So you nail him down on something there.
Now I have a goal. I'm all like, okay, I'm going to pick his little brain, and I'll have the mic. Like, here you go.
He's bringing a mic for us too, so you can trade mic moments.
This is perfect. Now I have a list of things to do and prepare for our moment together.
Big.
Now, it's been a couple of seasons. I always ask a different question. So, Abby, for you, for the 60th anniversary, what female character do you find inspiring?
Okay, that is hard. And especially since anyone who's ever asked me a Trek question that involves the word favorite knows that I have a really hard time narrowing down. Like, I could do one from every series and all that, but one that I've really been jamming on lately and still is Rock from Prodigy. Like, I love that character. And we could talk about all the other big ones, and you and I have, and I loved your presentation that you did at the con previously about women in Trek. It was great. But Rock, this is a young female character, even though she lived through all that compressed time. So really, she's got some years that don't show in some of the other parts of her, but she's non-traditionally sized. She's a scientist. She's unabashedly enthusiastic. She loves deeply and isn't afraid to show that to the people around her. And she is loyal beyond loyal and so brave. And I really like her as someone who you see with an arc and growth in those 2 seasons of Prodigy, and someone who my young girls look up to as a role model. And she's someone that you could be. You see her hugging her Delta Dr. Heart Sparkle animals in the one episode, and then in the other one, she's solving time paradoxes. So like, this is a wonderful female character, and she's just been I like to spend a lot of time in Prodigy in the summer. It seems like a good summer thing. They're bite-sized. The second season came out in the summer, so this is about the time that I just really jam on Prodigy, and so Rock Talk's been rising up there for me again.
And of course, with your girls out of school, this is a good time to spend time with them rewatching Prodigy. Good 40 episodes of, I mean, we've talked about this before, especially with Aaron Walke being such a fan and even everyone else who was showrunner and executive producer and all that. But they highlighted Trek so well. But it was always the focus on these new characters. You know, like we never felt it was just, you know, member berries or nostalgia. This was telling a story, and they stuck with that. And then would throw in like little like, oh, this was from TNG, you know, and we'll catch it, right? Like a little Easter egg. So that was what was so good. And of course, season 2 was the best. But I mean, I remember screaming. Screamed. When I heard Wesley, I was all like, Will's back. Yeah. So perfect time, perfect way to bring him back. And even just the smidge of emotion, those darn animators of like Beverly mentioning Picard or like Wesley feeling guilty that he has not talked to his mother. How dare you?
As well you should.
Perfect. As well you should. I mean, Janeway was all of us. Okay. She just gave him a look like, ooh, you know, and I was like, thank you, Janeway, for putting him in his place. You call your mother. Love it. But of course, we're now going to be talking about different children here called Children of Time, which was in season 5 of Deep Space Nine. I watched it a couple times this morning just so I had a fresh memory of it. But let's go ahead and start with a clip of the episode.
If your plan is to work, we must do the same.
There are almost 8,000 people living on this planet. This is the only chance they have.
Dax, I want a full evaluation as soon as possible. If the plan is sound, start making the modifications immediately.
Thank you, Benjamin.
Anything for you, old man.
I had to highlight that because one of the biggest things about Dax and Sisko's relationship is how he accepted Dax no matter what form Dax was in and would just be like, old man. Love it. And this particular Dax, weirder name, so it's harder to remember, but he was like, you could see, this actor was great. You could see like, I remember you. It's so good to see you, and like just very, you know, the elder of the colony, and showcasing that and just knowing like, I know who you guys are. Like, you're all in me, like all the memories and everything. So I loved how they portrayed that. And then even having the Miranda character, who was a descendant of O'Brien, she was also an elder of the colony as well, even though O'Brien was the big, like, I don't like this at all, you know, being the Debbie Downer of it all. So I wanted to kind of bring it, the big thing was, you know, the Defiant discovers that they have 8,000 descendants from its crew. Now, to save the colony, the crew must remain stranded in the past, but escaping also means that the colony never exists. So there is just this ethical problem here. When you saw this episode, or even just rewatching it, what did it make you feel when they became, you know, had to deal with this really tough dilemma of what to do?
Oh, this is the kind of Star Trek I like. First of all, I love time travel episodes, right? Because it opens up all of these different doors and possibilities and timelines and threads. And I mean, there's always the question in anybody's mind, what if I had done something differently? What if this? What if that? And you get to see the results of this, right? And there are a bunch of Star Trek episodes that do this. Like we're seeing our future descendants right now. Oops, timey-wimey. But I think it's so interesting that you have the Dax, like you were talking about, because that through line of memory and that deep knowledge is what lets them at first pretend that there is a solution that would work out for both of them, right? And I don't think if there had been anyone that wasn't Dax, would there have even been the opportunity to trick Dax, Jadzia Dax, because she's such a scientist, but Yedrin knows her as well as she knows herself. So there's layers in there of all of that, which is super interesting. And Dax is one of those things, the symbiont Dax is one of those things that already has this long-term memory and knows some of the what ifs and has lifetimes. So it is such an interesting layer to throw in there. And the life of the symbiont we see over and over in every Star Trek is important. So that's something to think about too. Like, this symbiont has kept going and has this memory. And then if we don't keep them around, oh my goodness, we've not only lost that, we've lost the symbiont's future memory. It gets so tangled up and twisty like a bowl of spaghetti. And you sit there and you can follow one noodle, right, and get to one answer, and you follow another noodle and you get to another answer, and they're both kind of right and they're both kind of wrong. And that's what I love about this kind of Star Trek.
I mean, this, like you said, it's a perfect Star Trek episode because it has the whole timeline, the ethical dilemma, trying to figure out what's right, what's wrong, So there are some questions I kind of sent this your way, kind of questions to think about. So do you think the colonists have the right to exist by having the crew sacrifice their future for the colony?
I think everybody has a right to exist, but at the same time, it's one of those times where you can say yes, but, and the but afterwards, nobody is really wrong. Like, when they're sitting around and discussing and they're feeling the guilt. I mean, I don't want to be on either side of this. This is an actual rock and a hard place, right? Like, you do this and you're going to lose people. You do this and you're going to lose people. And it's thinking about too, and this is where Miles gets me. I mean, he has a brand new baby at home. He has a young family. No wonder he wants to push to go back. He wants to get there. He thinks it's worth it. He has that super strong bond waiting for him. And he's thinking about what happens to them if I don't go back. And not to say that anybody else is them back there. I mean, Jake as well. I mean, Cisco feels that. And we hear from Yedrin saying, every time I looked at you after that, all I could think of was Jake. Well, yeah, what happens to them if you don't go back? And of course, you have to think, we know what happens when they do go back. We know how important they are to the Alpha Quadrant because of what we know in the future seasons. And that's something you got to think about too. If I don't go back, who's running the station? Who's the liaison to Bajor? We don't have another changeling on our side right now. Like, they didn't get into all that, but that's part of what the calculations are, right? So do they have a right to exist? Absolutely. Do we have a right to exist with our families in our original timeline? Absolutely. And they don't know which one is right or wrong. They don't have a traveler sitting here going, well, this is the timeline and this is the line. And, so it's so messy because the answer
Very
is
complicated.
everybody has a right to exist. But what is the balance of human life? What equation can you live with? And that's part of it. Nobody should be asked to do this, but if they volunteer to do it, is that different too? So it gets messy.
I like how you said the equation, what to live with, which is what Kira was doing. She's like, I'm gladly to sacrifice myself for these 8,000 people, right? She's like, I'm one person, going back to Spock, needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. It's the same thing. Now, in that discussion, though, like you said, O'Brien was very much like, I have a family, I gotta go back, all that stuff. But Worf, being the warrior and logical thinker at times, he was like, our families are going to be fine. They're going to live their life. He's like, but they're not. Like, they're going to be gone. So he's like, we can't even, it's apples and oranges in this situation. Even when the colony Odo was like, well, what about the, future descendants that are not going to be born because you go back? She's like, but they don't exist yet. These do. They do. And that's why she's like, we can't compare the two. They are totally different. Now, I've loved, because O'Brien is so much about family, that when he was forced to help plant with his descendant Molly is when it clicked with him. And it kind of reminded me of I, Borg. So, the
reframing moment.
Yes, just Beverly was like, we can't do this. We can't do this. Like, this is not right. And, and Geordi's like, no, this is fine. I mean, everyone was, but, she was working with Geordi. But over time, when Geordi was working with Hugh, he realized, we can't do this, and it was that moment where O'Brien had to be the voice, just like Geordi was to Picard, being like, hey, Cisco, we can't do this. This is not right. were only a few. I mean, I couldn't remember if they actually said the number of people on the Defiant. I mean, all we really paid attention was the bridge crew. But comparing that number to the 8,000, it just is like, well, there's only about 20 of us, let's say, versus the 8,000. And so that's worth the sacrifice, especially knowing that our descendants, whoever we're leaving behind in the Alpha Quadrant, like Jake and Molly and everybody else here, they also have their descendants that are going to be on this planet. So it was a great moment. But of course, knowing that like Worf and Jadzia had a life together makes what happens later on difficult, which we'll definitely get into. Now, would you see this though as really like a Tuvix situation? Because like, is erasing the colony the same as killing 8,000 people? Because erasing is just like they didn't exist versus killing them, you know, like it's kind of the same with Tuvix. He was created, you know, by accident. He was created, but they had to basically make him not exist to bring back Neelix and Tuvok. So, you know, but these people, yes, there was an accident, but they were born. They lived a life. They lived 200 years. Their descendants got to live a life, and this generation, unfortunately, had the short end of the stick. But would you see this kind of similarity, or do you feel like they're kind of separate? And also even the ethical dilemma that Janeway had to decide, and also Sisko.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of the things I thought of right away when you brought this question up to me was, you know, and on top of it all, they're really far away from anybody else, right? Like when you're talking Tuvix, they're not by the Federation. They're not in the Alpha Quadrant. They don't have access to things that could have given them other options. Same thing with these. It's 200 years in the past. The wormhole isn't even discovered yet. Like they can't do anything. They're stuck here far away from help. So it's not even like they can reach out and get other opinions or other possible solutions. What they have is right there, whatever's in front of them. And I think that sometimes leads to harder decision making because it really does fall on the shoulders of those people. There is no other choice. There's no reaching out. There's no support system for stuff like this. And are we killing them if we make them cease to exist? It makes me think about the conversation that Worf was having with the Klingons about how they asked him for an honorable death because just ceasing to exist because my parents were never born is not getting me into Sto-vo-kor, right? Like this isn't how this works. And it just makes for a lot of gray areas. And I think that's one of the things that what I might think today could be different than what I think tomorrow. And I don't know what I would do if actually faced with this situation, right? Like, I don't think I could live with the guilt, but I also would have the hardest time not doing everything I could to get back to my family, my time, my timeline, and all that. So I don't know, but that's what makes this a really good episode, is that it lives in that gray area. And so does Tuvix. That's why we keep talking about it. Was this right? Was this wrong? And I think what complicates this one is that the decision was made and taken away from them. Like they didn't get to keep the decision that they had settled on. Whatever, they all came around, we're going to do this, we're going to go back. And then that was ripped away from them. So the entire situation feels more raw. Janeway took responsibility for Tuvix. Like, this is my choice. This is my decision. I did this. And what she decided stuck. It was still terrible and horrible. And you can argue if she was right or wrong, but the decision she made stuck. This one stings because they made a decision that they didn't get to follow through with because it was taken from them. And that tints the end of this, but it tints in the other color when it was done because of deep love. And you were talking about the Vulcan saying the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Well, the other Vulcan saying that I always think of is one man can summon the future. So, what happens if that one man throws their life away too early or isn't there where they should be in the future? There is so much of that there. And Odo, I like to think of him as soap opera Odo because he's got the deep V in his outfit and he's very suave and calm and full of love. right? He's like from an old soap from like the 80s and the
He
90s.
sure is. Yes.
Yeah.
Super
And he's
couple.
yes, exactly. And they get all the soft lighting and they hold hands and they get, yeah, so soap opera Odo has spent no, he's been cut off from not just like everybody else, but he's been cut off from his people. He knows he made a sacrifice to stay back. He knows he was an important link there, and he lost the person he had the deepest connection with and then obsessed over it for hundreds of years. So when you get to something and it's such a pinnacle and you're like, this is the moment, this is the only chance, I want to give me a different option and opportunity. When you add that personal layer with love and almost obsession at that point, it colors things. Like, he thought he was doing the right thing. They thought they were doing the right thing. He thought his right thing was more important than their right thing. Like, it gets all mixed up. And I think that scene at the end with Kira and Odo, where they're talking about this, and our Odo, full face makeup Odo, talks about how soap opera Odo came and linked with him and told him all this, and he was the one. Like, Kira's ticked, as well she should be, because she was no longer given a choice in her own destiny, which that's a whole nother ball of wax there.
Yeah.
But it also, how mad can you be that somebody did this because of such deep love and such a deep need to have someone they care about be okay? Because that's really what all of this is. We want people that we care about and feel connected to be okay. And you're left with that. And that's what makes you chew on this episode for so long, just like Tuvix.
Exactly. And, perfect segue, because, Odo did prevent the plan. So, was Odo justified for altering the crew's decision? Is loving one person worth the lives of so many? There's this one moment, though, again, another Beverly connection here, a little Crusher connection, is that Kira says the same thing Beverly did in Attached. So when Soap Opera Odo was saying, I have loved you for all these years, and she's like, I didn't know you felt that way. I was like, oh, that's what she said at the fire pit scene. And of course, Kira doesn't know how to handle this because she's about to go sacrifice herself, right? She's like, oh, like she feels bad.
And she's coming off of a big breakup. Like, two wallops in there, right? So,
yeah.
Like, she's not just reframing her breakup, but her life, and then how that was maybe what that breakup was about when the temple told them different paths. Like, dang, Kira, she's having some rough days of the soul.
Oh, absolutely. And then even her, because she had those really deep conversations with Soap Opera Odo at her gravesite, where she's just like, this is a unique parallel situation. But I feel like at the end, when our Odo is explaining to her what, the colony Odo did, and every right to be ticked off because of what had happened. But I feel because Odo was like, well, he loved you. That's why he did it. And in his mind, that justified it all. But she's like, but 8,000 people died. And I feel like up until season 7, I feel like she kind of held on to that anger for Soap Opera Odo towards her Odo, right? Like she just couldn't accept the fact of what, and then she was taking it out on him, even though he didn't make the decision. He was a pile of goo this entire time, all right? He had nothing to do with this, but he understood it, and I think that's what also pissed her off, because she's all like, how do you not see the problem here? So I kind of noticed that, but like you said, because of the whole timey-wimey situation, and even if they don't go back, what's going to happen with the war? What's going to happen with the situations that is going on in the Alpha Quadrant? Who's going to take over Deep Space Nine? There's always that if you change history, it affects the future, right? So because this didn't go down, even though they had decided we're going to go ahead and sacrifice ourselves, Kira was said, I'm going to die. We're going to live on this planet. Whatever's going to happen, happens. And then that was taken away from them because Kira wasn't the one that got to die and sacrifice herself. It ended up being Jadzia that ended up dying in that timeline. Because there's always someone that has to replace, so if one doesn't happen, the other, someone has to take its place, right? In order to maintain the timeline. I always mention this when it comes to all good things. It was Deanna that had died. Because Picard changed the timeline, Data's the one that died instead. There's always something that has to be put in its place. And so you're always sacrificing something as much as they feel like they're doing the right thing. Now, in this case, they knew what was going to happen. I think that's why it was the easier choice. They didn't know what was going to happen if this colony ceased to exist. And unfortunately, I don't think that soap opera Odo was thinking about that. All he cared about was Kira living a long, happy life. But what if she ended up
giving
dying
himself
anyways?
a chance.
And giving himself a chance, which, guess what, guys, didn't work out. Right? So these people really died for nothing in a way. Like, things might have been good for other things, like Jake, but even we lost Cisco. He didn't get to live out his life, right? Cisco ended up going with the prophets. There's just so many different things that compiled on top of each other that because this Odo took that away, it almost is like he kind of ruined it, because Jadzia did die. Kira and Odo didn't get up to be together. Cisco was gone. All these things happened. Worf went through a lot of crap, right? Losing Jadzia, everyone, I don't think really knows this, but there is a deleted scene in season 3 of Picard where he's explaining of a woman's death that haunted him so much that that's why he decided to go on the path of peace. They had to cut it out for time, but it made sense on why he was the way he was. So it's almost just like, I don't want to say anticlimactic, but in a sense it is, because they would have lived happy lives figuring it out and having descendants to what ended up happening. Now, cheap shot to O'Brien, though, saying you don't ever see your son to Worf.
That was awesome, right? I'm sorry. That was deserved. Like, Worf is a great character. He's iffy as a father. Like, and I get it. Circumstances, this is not what we're talking about. But the only person who probably could have made that joke to him besides O'Brien would have been Jadzia, right? Like, but yeah,
You
they've
really
known each
can't
other for a
say
while. I
that.
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think about
I loved
too,
it.
when you're talking about the balance, right? So yeah, these people would have had long, happy lives. But then on the other end, if Kira had died on that planet, who would have helped the Cardassian underground after in the war?
Or
Who
the
would have helped
prophets with
them?
Cisco. Mhm.
Correct. What would have happened with the prophets with Cisco? What would have happened, if Worf hadn't gone back and he hadn't become the Klingon ambassador and they hadn't done all of the things that he did with Gowron and then Martok, and like we could keep going with all of that. I mean, O'Brien becomes the most important person in the universe according to Lower Decks, right? So I mean, he's already pretty awesome, but to get that, he's got something else big to do. And that so you look and because we know the future story, so we can say without Odo being there, the founders would not have gotten sick. They would also not have gotten better. Like this war, who knows who else could have been impacted. And that's what makes this one of those eternal debates. And you can argue all the sides because Enterprise, this is what I always say about my own show. Enterprise is always the best when it lives in the gray. Star Trek does some of its best work living in the gray. And I think this one does a really good job of it because you're living in that gray. You feel like everybody has some justification. Everybody made good and bad choices in this in some ways. And you have so much character development and so many little moments between the different people in this. And you get to see them as people, not just as officers. And you get to see the whole bunch of them, which is really nice because everybody has a layer in this. Everybody has something to do, except poor Quark, who's now the teacher, which is true. He would make a fabulous math teacher because he is good at numbers. So, and when the Delta Flyers covered this episode, they were talking about the last time that Quark had been on the Defiant. He was wearing the same outfit that he's wearing in the little program. So when they said they took it from the Defiant logs, that was either a happy accident or a really good costume or deep cut, because that's fantastic. I like that continuity. But I like this because everybody got to be both a person and an officer. And that's why this one feels so gray, because sometimes the choice that you make as a person doesn't agree with what you should or have to do as an officer. And yeah, the complexity is what makes you really chew on this one, and why this makes this a really good episode of DS9. Because at this point, I mean, we're coming up to the end of the 5th season. We know these characters. We've been through stuff with these characters. We know there's more to come. This has got a lot going on, and you feel for them in so many ways. I mean, the whole pregnancy and birth of Kiriyoshi was a massive storyline for this entire season, right? Poor O'Brien not going back to hug that baby who's not even walking yet. So, yeah, I mean, the gray area here is what makes it one of my favorite episodes of this season for sure.
Yeah. Huge, ethical dilemma in all fronts, right? Like you said, their decision could be the right or wrong way. There really is no right and wrong way. It's just, it is what it is. So to go into our penny for your thoughts, I got a couple of pennies here. So I'm going to go ahead and post that right now.
Penny for your thoughts.
So I got 2 pennies. I got one from Chris from First Flight Podcast. I think you know him, Abby. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, just a little.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Just a little bit.
And then, of course, I have Ed from My Figure Universe / Boost the Signal podcast. Now, when me and Abby were in the green room talking about this, we realized I think Chris was talking about the wrong episode, but there is some moments here that does highlight from this episode. So he said the dialogue between Jadzia and Worf is crisp, playful, and authentic. Every scene is electric. Then the choice Worf has to make pushes him beyond duty. He's lost so much in his life, he couldn't lose her, and that makes her later death hurt worse. We believe he might be thinking about that episode where they were trapped on that planet and Jadzia was about to die. Not really sure, but
Change of heart.
Moments here, yes, the moments here of, they could have had a life together on this colony, and then knowing that in a year, because this is at almost the end of season 5, in a year, they're not going to have that life together. That does make her death hurt worse, knowing that there was a possibility for that. Unlike Picard and Beverly, where it doesn't seem like any timeline they have a happy relationship, so that's fine. But at least there was a moment for Jadzia and Worf that could have happened. Now, Ed does say when it comes to Children of Time.
Before we go past that, I want to say there is a really nice Jadzia and Worf moment that Worf isn't even in, because when Yedrin and Jadzia are talking about Worf, she looks at him and she asks, "Were we happy?" And he nods and he's like, "Yes, he's a good man, Jadzia." And she goes, "I know. Sometimes he's just so hard to get along with." And that's just so beautiful, because she's being honest to herself in a way, right? Both herself as Jadzia and herself as Yedrin. And to hear...
Talk about meta.
Right. And to hear that this relationship had staying power in this context really gets to emphasize to her even more that I think she already knows this relationship has staying power, but to know that it was successful in another universe helps this. And they obviously had kids and descendants without too much trouble, because, I mean, they had what Julian had on that planet, so they could think about, this just seems to be like, oh, well, I already know this could work, so maybe I should actually give it a try, for real here, now. And that reverberates through the rest of the season and beyond. So that's interesting.
No, absolutely. Now, Ed says, when it comes to Children of Time, I've always wondered about the crew members on the Defiant that found out that in the alternate future where they were stuck in the planet and eventually fell in love. Did that cause a rift between those characters, or did it help push them together to eventually realize that they had something in common? I think that this is a subject that would have been really fun to explore. And this is a perfect example here, is that the person that Bashir ended up being with was someone he didn't even know existed. Because even Worf was like, or was it O'Brien? Who is that?
Who's that?
And he's like,
she
I
just
don't know,
came out
but
like a week ago.
She just came out a week ago. So, but apparently she's beautiful. And it's fine. But then with O'Brien, he was shocked because he saw the ensign in engineering, that kind of blew his mind. But you never know. They even said, what's his name? The Dax.
Yedrin?
Okay,
Yedrin. Yeah.
Okay, so he's all like, well, you guys didn't get married till 10 years after you crashed. So it wasn't like this
You
was
were
a
the
quick
last
thing.
one to give up, dude.
Last one. Yeah.
Which
So,
is a very Miles O'Brien moment. And I love that
correct.
because he is so deeply loyal and he loves Keiko so much. And that is not ever highlighted enough in people's discussions. That's a real relationship. They have real ups and downs, but wow, does he love his family?
He does. He does. And that just, like you said, it just highlights it even more because, Yedra was like, you were the last to give up. So trust me, it took a while. But clearly Rita was there for him this entire time, coping with the fact that he lost his family, that he was not going to see, Yoshi grow up or Molly, or the fact that they were naming the children after Molly this entire time. So that's just showing how much he really suffered in the sense that he did not get to go back to his family, but also to try and not feel guilty that he started a new family and hoping probably that Keiko also did the same. So those are little moments that I think people might miss, but I think was just, in Bashir's fashion, it's supposed to be funny. In O'Brien's fashion, it's supposed to be sad. But of course, everything's sad with O'Brien, poor thing. Sad.
He's got to suffer.
He's got to suffer at some point. But also, again, not a Bashir fan, guys. I really am not. And this also kind of highlighted it where he just was almost very, I don't know, had this ego about him. Oh, there's a bunch of little Bashirs. I'm going to go meet. It didn't faze him. This was just oh, and I'm with this amazing, beautiful woman. I don't know. His was just kind of whatever. It didn't really have a deep, something deep for him, and maybe because the other characters had something more going on, or maybe just the fact that Bashir really had nothing going on in Deep Space Nine, so he's like, hey, I had a family and this is what's going on. I don't know.
Well, and I think he was proud that a lot of them became healers like he did. I think
That's
he
true.
really was feeling that pride of legacy. How often do you get to see that? I mean, I know you're a Who fan. Think about when Vincent van Gogh, right, goes back and sees how many people love him afterwards and how that makes you feel. And when you think about Bashir and how we know about all of his genetic manipulation and augmentation and all of that stuff, and he's finding out that he has a legacy no matter what, and he's always been hiding and keeping that as a part of him that is a secret. And here he can just be brilliant because he has to be brilliant, and he's out doing the frontier medicine he wanted to do since the very first episode of the show. So I think he was just kind of happy to know that he had found a place to do good work for a very long time. That, and I mean, it didn't hurt that there were lots of cute ladies, or at least one cute lady to propagate with, but he took that little step back. Well, right. He took that little step back in his development back to his earlier years, but that is still in character. He was kind of a womanizer. He is looking for romance. He's young. He's excited. He wants to go out and find people he can connect with like that as well. And he obviously did. So I'll give him a little bit. He was excited there. Go ahead, ask her out when you get back. We know it's not going to happen. We don't really hear about her anymore, but hey, it felt like Julian. And I was glad to hear him say that they're healers. Did you hear that? They're healers. So he had a good effect.
Yeah, that's true. I think he just had more of he's very much of a, it is what it is. So just accept it kind of scenario, while O'Brien really is not. I mean, they're perfect best friends when it comes to that. They're the yin and yang of it all. And so I think that was probably a good highlight. I just wasn't as I didn't really care as much. And I think and I think that was probably the point, because his story wasn't as important as the other ones, like Kira's and even Worf's in some way. So that's where I was just I don't know. Now, I'm super excited because in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to do a new episode. Going to do it live. Don't know my guest yet, but I did my spinner real fast this morning, and it's not Deep Space Nine, which is great because I don't like to do back to back. So this is nice. But let's find out, guys, what my next episode is going to be with the sick bay spinner. I mean, I've done TNG, I've done Enterprise, I've done Deep Space Nine, and now I'm on to Voyager. So I'm super, super excited. Like I said, I don't have a guest yet. However, there's a couple of people that have reached out that want to be a guest. So we'll see who'll be able to be available on June 26th. But yeah, I'm really happy to be jumping on to the Delta Quadrant and talking about this episode. But it's just been a wild ride. I've so far, I feel like I've done all of them. I don't know if I've done Prodigy yet, but I think that's like the last on my list. I've done Picard. Technically, I've done Discovery, but that's not technically on the list because I just started. But yeah, very excited to be joining Voyager. Now, let's go ahead and jump into my Redhead Alert. All right, guys, don't forget about my giveaway. Once I get to 1,000 followers on Instagram and 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will be giving away an autograph of Gates McFadden to a very special listener. So please subscribe on YouTube, and please follow me on Instagram and spread the word and share my content to help me reach my goal. And of course, I love to hear your thoughts, so you can submit a penny for your thoughts by recording off my website a 60 to 90 second clip at crushercombo.com, or you can email me your thoughts, or even just drop me a DM or a comment on social media, and I will announce your penny live on the air. And of course, my Patreon shoutouts go to Leslie, Dave, Grayson, and Elisa, who are my Commander patrons, and Chuck, Engineer Mark, and Johannes Borg, who are my Admiral patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast and enjoy exclusive extra content, just head over to patreon.com/crushercombo, and you can sign up for as low as $3 a month. Now, because this was such last minute, as everyone knows, we're pre-recording. There's daylight happening behind us. This is why I'm on my second cup of coffee because it's a little early in the morning. But I threw on real fast on Threads a poll because I was like, oh shoot, I forgot to do tricorder rating. And luckily 4 people knew the assignment. So let's do that real fast. Yes, with the tricorder rating.
By tricorder.
So those 4 votes, 25% said 5 Golian spas. All right. 75% said 4 class probe, which is class 4 probe, but then 0 for 3 Gelm breads and 1 to 2 barriers. But if you could, hey, when I heard that, I was like, perfect. It's going on the tricorder. If you could pick a rating from here, what would you think this episode would be?
Oh, see, this is hard. I like that on my podcast we go to 10 with half ones in there because I get much more specific and nuanced.
You can do a half.
Yeah, because I feel like it's more than a 4 and it's not quite a 5. 5s are like perfect, and I reserve those for a very, very, very select few. But this is definitely one of my favorites.
Code of Honor is not on the list.
Code of Honor would go down and it would get 0 barriers.
Zero.
Yeah, no. Yeah. I mean, there are a couple costumes in there that are pretty interesting, well crafted, intricate, even.
But that's all it's going to be.
The hand spiky thing is a cool idea.
I love how you could find the positive.
I'm trying, right? Anyways, this one goes way high up there. I'm going to give it 4 class 4 probe and a hairnet, right? Because they had all those gorgeous like woven hairnets in this one. And that'll be my half because I feel like it is definitely way up there. I would watch this again. I love chewing on this. Every single time I find another nuance, another joy, another nugget to chew on. And it's such a good episode that doesn't necessarily leave you with the resolution that you expected or wanted, but you're definitely going to be thinking about it for a while. So 4.5 here. A probe and a hairnet.
A probe and a hairnet. All right. I'm just gonna stick with the probe. All right. So class 4 probe here. I'm with the 75%. As you said, it's not perfect. Like it is not like one of the best episodes ever, like Those Old Scientists. But it's definitely keeps you thinking. It's definitely an episode you can rewatch. Even in this aspect of you see it on Pluto TV and be like, oh, that's a good episode. And you can stop what you're doing and just sit there, right? Mm-hmm. When other episodes like 3 and below might be background noise. Now, this is an episode that I'm like, I'm going to watch again. And it's also because of that ethical dilemma. It's between there's really no right or wrong answer. It's all gray. And everyone had the right reasons to do things, and everyone had the wrong reasons to do things. So it definitely falls into that little box there. So, but Abby, I always love having you on, and I love talking with you, and you're always one of the very first people to watch my episode once it drops, and you always have amazing things to say. But please let the listeners know where they can find you.
All right. Well, if you're looking for me personally, I am mostly on Blue Sky, though I'm a little bit everywhere else. So if you want to find me in any of those places, I will do my very best to find you back. And that's Abby M. Summer, Sommer, not like the season. And if you want to listen to me talk a lot about Enterprise and a bunch about other Trek, my co-host Chris, who you've heard us refer to multiple times tonight, and I have a podcast called First Flight Pod. You can find it on all the socials and platforms that you listen to podcasts on. We drop at least 3 episodes a month, sometimes more. We're having some little series that are popping in here talking about Star Trek music and getting assigned some Treks of the Month from our co-host Emerita Melanie. Costumes, yes, we do a lot of focus on costumes and food because I am on brand all the time here. But come take a listen. We are right now about just over halfway through season 4 of Enterprise, and we're into some really good ones, and those arcs that really have some changing in the universe going on. So we'd love to have you over there. Come be a part of the Carrot Crew. Come find out why we call ourselves the Carrot Crew.
So I finished Enterprise. Yay! And now I'm just like, all right, I'm done. I got this. Now I'm going to head on to Discovery. And I feel like I'm almost done because like I just have Discovery and then I think one more JJ movie and I am all caught up. Now, again,
the animated series?
I know. The animated series is going to be a Patreon thing. So I'll be watching that and kind of drop it because there's really not a lot of episodes. But I just think that I'm just like, it's so weird how I'm like almost there. I know a lot about Star Trek, obviously, even with episodes I haven't watched. Like I knew what the finale of Enterprise was before I watched it. But still, I feel like I need my belt of like, wrestling belt kind of thing. It's like, I did it.
No, it is. When you're a completist, there's a feeling of satisfaction, It's just like, I did something
But sadness.
big. Yes.
Sadness.
But the best thing is you're always going back to rewatch, right? They're always there. And I have found doing a very in-depth rewatch podcast of Enterprise, which I have seen literally probably every episode 50 times or more, because it was my jam when I first went off after college and lived on my own. That's when it was on. I am finding so many more layers and different meaning. And as I get older, different episodes are hitting differently. As I became a parent, things are different. As the world falls apart around me, things are feeling very different. And I am envious of you getting to watch Discovery right now for the first time in where the state of the world is now in, midway through 2026. I think you are going to find it a comfort because I do. And yeah, so even when you finish, there are moments you can go back to and find so much more meaning in. I mean, there's 900 plus hours. We have a copious amount of good things to choose from.
We sure do. Now, going back to Chris, though, real fast. Chris, so I wore this on purpose. Chris is the one that helped me design with the Admiral Crusher design that I have. So he basically did Beverly, and then I did all the filters and all the cool things and the logo and all that stuff. So shout out to Chris, Shelf Nerds, First Flight Podcast. You will absolutely love to follow him. As he said, he breaks down Trek in more ways than one. But again, thank you, Abby. Thanks to everyone who is listening and chiming in the comments. I really appreciate everybody. And as always, live long and prosper and have a good night. Bye, guys.
Crusher out.